chicken should be ready soon.
I am a bit rebellious towards the strict behaviorist paradigm.
Mother, hello, father.
Jimmy? Sometimes I just want to show affection towards my kids, physically or with words. John thinks we should only eat with our kids on holidays, and let's be real, this is a bit extreme. I mean, I don't want to form unhealthy attachments, but we just had a family dinner, and I think it went pretty well.
And all I'm saying is that I think Freud was onto something, and I just don't understand how you guys can't.
It's going so well.
Really, we do. Tell me about.
We want them to be independent so they don't form dependent habits. Our children are so much more independent than most, and this makes it easier on us and them. We're supposed to be raising independent individuals, not imbeciles.
Now, John, we did a lot of things well, and our kids are adaptive. My fondest wish is for my kids to be adaptive, and they tend to be now. Remember when we were able to break them from their feeding habits? That was good. However, I must admit, when they cried, I just wanted to coddle them.
Yes, but then they stopped, and you were able to get 8 hours of sleep, which is important for you and them. Rosalie, in our research, we found that daily routines provide children nice habits, conventions, and customs demanded by polite society.
That's true. Jimmy, it's great to have you here for dinner.
Yeah, one of like 10 dinners we have a year together, huh?
Jimmy, we do this for your own good. Look at how self-sufficient you are now. If I had it my way, you wouldn't even be living in the same place that we did. Your mother's not the greatest behaviorist. Then you'd be at the peak level of training and the best human possible.
Yeah, parents of the year for sure. No wonder William didn't come home for dinner. Between the robotic way you guys interact with us and him and Dad arguing about not being a behaviorist because he's all about Freud.
Don't you dare say that name in this house. It still pains me to think of my eldest believing in a different way. What does his patience even do? Sit on a couch and cry? That might be the most emotion I've shown with my son to this day.
Oh, believe me, I know you showed no emotion. You were cold and treated us like lab rats. But behaviorism sounds amazing until you put it into practice. It undermines self-esteem and ego strength, but you would never admit this because you'd rather die on the hill of behaviorism.
Ego strength? Now you're starting to sound like your brother.
I know. Kidding me? Jimmy, don't act like we don't love you. It's not like we didn't want to show you affection. We just didn't want to over-coddle you or make you dependent on coddling. We just wanted you to be adults, like little adults.
Exactly.
Don't worry. You never got close to coddling me. Ever, in fact. Don't act like you weren't on the same page as Dad. Dad never even kissed me for the entire 1920s.
John was right. I'm a bad mother, behavioristically speaking. Honestly, I'm the very worst behaviorist. Every once in a while, I just want to break the rules. In some respects, I bow to the great wisdom of behaviorism. And in other times, I'm more rebellious. I am somewhat on the side of the children. Sometimes I just want to do pranks and giggle with the kids. Something behaviorists like John would think to be a sign of maladjustment.
Now, Rosalie, remember that our goal is to be objective and kindly firm. This is what it takes to be the best parents.
Okay, well, I know and I agree, but sometimes I'm still on the side of the kids. I want to show them my affection. I've done everything else. I've kept records of our children's behaviors and development, and I'm keeping our home as much like a laboratory as possible.
We are doing what's best for our kids. Parental affection is harmful for children. Our sons are just dramatic, something our behavioral methods would have prevented.
I do agree that we should break the mother attachment as early as possible, or better, not allow it to grow up. Our kids were fortunate because they didn't have that attachment, and now they're more adaptive. Listen, Jimmy, it's clear you're experiencing a bit of distress right now, But listen, we did show you love. In our scientific understanding, something like touching or stroking of the skin, stroking of an infant's skin, it's a stimulus response pairing. The response, you feel love. And anything we paired with it, you learned was love, which brought on a chain of stimulus pairings and gave you the understanding of what love is.
Listen
So
to
we
your
did show you
mother.
love.
Love has never existed in this house. I don't know how to love today. William and I don't know how to love today. All I do know is that when it comes to emotions, we're lost. And any issues William and I have in the future is going to be from an erosion of the inability to effectively show and deal with human emotions. My parents are wacko for sure. Who treats their children like little machines that you just put into a code and bam, they're perfect? I've talked to folks and they think my mom just blindly followed my dad. You see, Mother is a very cautious and good student of Dad's. Children simply cannot grow emotionally and develop a reasonably strong foundation as adults to cope with the world. They won't have the ability to love and be loved and to develop a respectable level of self-esteem, which is essential to growth. Something my parents never thought about.
Jimmy is a bit explosive with his emotions. I suppose we can be to blame, John and I. The children have innumerable problems to be solved, which their father and I have had sturdy arguments, let me tell you. So much that I've grown to have resentment towards this whole strict behaviorism practice in our home. I didn't think it'd look like this, or be so hard.
My mom was on the same page as my dad. Based on my own memories, I have no reason to think, give, or take the occasional maternal instinct to control that Mother had any significant differences in attitude from Dad about child raising. Now that I think of it, my parents have always had a healthy relationship, and there was never an argument between them.
So ridiculous.
I can't believe you're bringing this up again. You always
You
do
won't let me
this.
see my children. Why won't you let me spend time with my children? It's always been like this. I don't get to see them, and it's always been this way.
You know motherly love is a dangerous instrument. Mothers need to be separate from their children because they have too much free time and will clobber them.
Okay, yes, I know we're trying not to form the attachment, but too much free time? Are you kidding me? I should write an article about this. Us women who pursue careers outside of motherhood have to face the conflict of motherly duties versus pursuing passions. And then we have to suddenly find the energy and time to be men's playmates. Definitely not too much free time. You know what? Fine. If it means I can get out of the house, I can go to the beauty parlor, I can write, I'll limit my contact with them. But the nurses we hire better be knowledgeable about behaviorism.
Of course, they will have read all of our articles and they will have notes on what stimulus calls out which reactions for our boys. Okay then, I will plan how often we meet for dinner.
Fine.
Honestly, Jimmy, you should be thanking me. I paved the way for you boys. I showed you efficient routines that can be for children learning their independence. I taught the world that punishment should only be used as a last resort and should never be worse than a slap on the wrist. You're welcome. Your mother and I, we even proved that fear is conditioned, which meant that we know how to protect you.
Right. And how's little Albert doing?
That mother pulled her son before we could condition the fear out of him, okay? You know that.
Sure, Mom. Keep telling yourself
Look,
that.
I will not have you come here and
No,
disrupt
what
our
I
dinner.
won't have
We
is
see
that
you
you're
once
still
a
trying
year.
You're still
This
trying
is
to
the
be
I think it would be
We're
best.
still
for
trying
you.
to train me.
good.
I'm a grown
Yeah,
man.
maybe
I'm a
it's
grown
time
man.
for
I'm
you to
28
go.
years
We'll try
old. Yep. Typical family dinner at the Watsons. I hate their family dinner.
Yeah,
get back
that's
here,
why
Jimmy,
you
get back here.
I told you my children would be independent, even if it has come to bite me in the ass.
We'll try again next year.
Come, sit. I taught this.